Have you ever wondered how Canada, the second largest country in the world by land area, came to be what it is today? This is a tale that begins thousands of years ago, with the first indigenous peoples who called this vast land home. These diverse groups, including the Inuit in the Arctic, the Algonquin in the east, and the Haida in the west, developed vibrant cultures, complex societies, and innovative technologies, all adapted to the unique challenges of their environments. Long before the sails of European ships appeared on the horizon, these indigenous peoples were the stewards of the land we now know as Canada. They hunted the abundant wildlife, fished in the teeming rivers and oceans, and cultivated crops, building communities that thrived for centuries. The first known contact with Europeans didn't occur until around the year 1000 AD, when the Vikings, led by Leif Erikson, landed on the shores of what is now Newfoundland. Despite this early contact, it wasn't until the late 15th and early 16th centuries that European exploration of Canada kicked into high gear, sparked by the promise of new trade routes and resources. The French, under Jacques Cartier, were the first to establish a permanent settlement, founding Quebec City in the early 17th century. The English, not to be outdone, founded their own colonies, including the Hudson's Bay Company territories. This set the stage for a fierce rivalry between these two European powers, a rivalry that would shape the destiny of the country. The French and English sought alliances with different indigenous groups, intertwining European and indigenous histories in complex and often tragic ways. The rivalries and alliances formed during this time had far-reaching implications, affecting the lives of indigenous peoples and shaping the future of the colonies. As the 18th century dawned, Canada was a land contested by the French and English, setting the stage for significant conflict. But that, my friends, is a story for the next chapter in our journey through the fascinating history of Canada. With the dawn of the 18th century, Canada became a battleground between two European superpowers. The vast, untamed wilderness of Canada was seen as ripe for the taking, a jewel to be claimed. The French and the British, two nations with a long history of rivalry, found themselves locked in a fierce contest for control over this new world. The French and Indian War, known in Europe as the 7 Years' War, was the first global conflict, and it played out with brutal intensity on the shores of Canada. The French, allied with various Native American tribes, clashed with the British, who were determined to expand their colonial holdings. The war was marked by bloody battles, shifting alliances, and a struggle for survival in the harsh Canadian wilderness. Yet, it was the British who ultimately emerged victorious, gaining control of Canada in the Treaty of Paris in 1763. With the stroke of a pen, the map of North America was redrawn, and Canada became a British colony. But the story doesn't end there. The American Revolution, just a few years later, had a profound impact on Canada. As the 13 colonies fought for their independence from Britain, Canada became a haven for loyalists, those who remained faithful to the crown. Fleeing the upheaval in the South, they made their way to Canada, bringing with them their skills, their traditions, and their unwavering loyalty to Britain. This influx of loyalist refugees reshaped the cultural and political landscape of Canada, reinforcing its ties to Britain and setting it apart from its revolutionary neighbor to the south. The British victory in the French and Indian War and the American Revolution set the stage for the next chapter in Canada's history. But the struggle for control over this vast land was far from over. It was just the beginning of a fascinating journey that would see Canada evolve from a battleground between superpowers into a nation in its own right. The 19th century brought profound changes to Canada, transforming it from a British colony to a self-governing nation. This period was marked by significant events that shaped the country's future. Among these events was the War of 1812, a conflict that pitted the United States against Great Britain, with Canada caught in the middle. This war, although not decisive in terms of territorial gains, was crucial in fostering a sense of national identity among Canadians. It showed them that they could stand up to their southern neighbors, and it also demonstrated the importance of unity. This unity was tested in 1837 with the rebellions in both Upper and Lower Canada. Discontent with British rule, combined with economic and political grievances, led to uprisings in both regions. While these rebellions were ultimately quelled, they highlighted the need for political reform and increased autonomy. And so began the push for Confederation. This was a complex process fraught with disagreements and negotiations. But the idea of a united Canada, independent from British rule, held strong appeal. Leaders from various colonies came together in a series of conferences, debating and discussing the terms of this union. The result was the British North America Act of 1867, a piece of legislation that created the Dominion of Canada. This act brought together 4 provinces, Ontario, Quebec, New Brunswick, and Nova Scotia, under one federal government. It marked the end of British rule and the beginning of a new era for Canada. But the road to Confederation was not an easy one. There were many obstacles and challenges along the way, and even after the act was passed, it took several more years for the other provinces and territories to join the Federation. Yet, despite these difficulties, the vision of a united, self-governing Canada prevailed. On July 1st, 1867, the Dominion of Canada was born, but the nation's story was far from over. With the dawn of the 20th century, Canada faced new challenges and opportunities. As the world plunged into the chaos of the First World War, Canada stepped up, sending more than 600,000 men and women overseas to fight. This period saw the country come into its own on the global stage, demonstrating a commitment to peace and freedom that would continue to define its international role. Following the First World War, Canada found itself grappling with the Great Depression. The economic downturn was a crucible that tested the resilience of Canadians. But through ingenuity and determination, they weathered the storm, setting the stage for a period of rapid growth in the mid-20th century. The Second World War marked another pivotal moment in Canada's history. The nation once again rallied, contributing significantly to the Allied war effort. The end of the war brought about a wave of immigration that would profoundly reshape the country's cultural landscape. As the decades rolled on, Canada experienced significant political and social changes. The Quiet Revolution in Quebec, a period of intense socio-political and socio-cultural change in the 1960s, marked a shift towards secularization and the establishment of a welfare state. This era saw a surge in Quebec nationalism, which would have a lasting impact on Canadian politics. Towards the end of the 20th century, Canada adopted the Charter of Rights and Freedoms. This powerful document, part of the country's constitution, guarantees fundamental freedoms to all Canadians. It symbolizes Canada's commitment to diversity, equality, and social justice, principles that continue to guide the nation today. The dawn of the 21st century saw Canada continue to evolve and adapt. With its multicultural, bilingual society, Canada has carved out a unique place on the world stage. The country's rich history has shaped its present, and it stands ready to meet the challenges and opportunities of the future. As we entered the 21st century, Canada had evolved from a British colony to a multicultural, bilingual nation with a unique place in the world. Canada's history is a rich tapestry, woven with the threads of Indigenous cultures, European rivalry, and the struggle for self-governance. As we've journeyed through this narrative, we've seen the beauty of this vast land's early history, rooted in the diverse cultures of its Indigenous peoples. Their stories, traditions, and wisdom set the stage for what was to come, offering a vibrant backdrop to the unfolding saga. The arrival of European explorers in the 15th century ignited a complex period of conflict and cooperation. The thirst for new lands, resources, and trade routes spurred intense rivalry among European powers, particularly between the English and the French. This contention played out on Canadian soil, shaping the landscape and the lives of its people in profound ways. The road to Confederation was, in many ways, a journey towards self-governance. It was a struggle for unity amid diversity, for a shared identity within a vast territory. The creation of the Dominion of Canada on July 1, 1867, marked a pivotal moment in this journey. It signaled the birth of a new nation, one that would continue to grow and evolve, guided by the principles of peace, order, and good government. As we moved into the 20th century and beyond, Canada's narrative took on new dimensions, from the bravery displayed during the World Wars to the significant strides made in human rights and multiculturalism. Canada has consistently shown its resilience and commitment to progress. The country's history is punctuated by moments of triumph, challenge, and change, each contributing to the diverse tapestry that is Canada today. So now, when you think of Canada, remember the vast and diverse history that has shaped this extraordinary country. The indelible traces of its indigenous roots, the echoes of European rivalry, and the steady march towards self-governance all tell a story of a nation that is as complex as it is captivating. Until next time, keep exploring.